You are listening to ProveText, a GlossaHouse podcast exploring
Hello,
scripture
welcome
with
to
Dr. T.
ProveText.
Michael
I'm
W.
Michael Halcomb, and
Dr.
in
Frederick
this
J. Long.
episode,
Welcome.
I'm thinking
and
about
enjoy.
3 things. And these are 3 things that I want to share with you about preaching. 3 tips that I use in my own preaching week in and week out. And these are 3 tips that over 2 decades or so of preaching that I've used to craft my own sermons and to create common points along the way for my listeners to expect and to tune into. Almost sort of liturgical elements, if you will, in a sermon. And so let me talk to you, let me share these 3 ideas with you. All right. The first preaching tip that I want to give to you is what I have called the word of the week. And the sort of goal behind this is that I want the people in the congregations that I'm speaking to have a robust theological vocabulary. And I don't want to do that by talking over their heads all the time or all at once, but sort of viewing it as a marathon, a long game, just 1 word a week. So a lot of times I'll introduce a theological term or some exegetical term or a scientific term that most people probably do not hear day in and day out or would use in their vocabulary irregularly or rarely. And so I'll introduce that to them and help them build the theological vocabulary slowly over time. I call that the word of the week. So in each of my sermons, that'll be a point. At some point, I'll introduce the word of the week. And another way that I think about this is, hey, if you show up to Sunday service and you're not going to learn anything, at least you'll learn just 1 word, right? Hopefully you'll learn at least 1 word. So that's one thing, and I just commend that to you and maybe encourage you to begin implementing that yourself. Another thing is, the second tip is something that I picked up from my friend Dr. Rick Boyd, and this is where I say, and everybody said. Now, typically, when you hear a preacher say that in a standard congregation, the congregation will reply, Amen. But we've sort of flipped this a little bit and changed it up, which makes it a little bit catchy. And so when I'm preaching in the congregation where I now serve, at the point where I say, and everybody said, the congregation knows to say, so what? Right? So in my sermon, that's exactly what will happen. I'll even have it up there on a slide behind me, and everybody said, ... so what? So everybody knows. And everybody said, so what? And that allows me, after I make an important point, to answer that so what question. And so if I'm making a really strong exegetical, historical, theological point, and then at that point I can say, and everybody said, and they all say, so what? And then I sort of give the exegetical, theological, historical payoff for that. So that's another thing that I commend to you. And the third thing that I commend to you, this was brought up in a conversation with my friend Dr. Matt O'Reilly a long time ago. This is called the bottom line. And I've been incorporating this for years as well. And this usually comes at the tail of the sermon, the end of the sermon. And this is where if you've learned 1 word, right, now you get to learn 1 point, right? What's the one thing that maybe I just want people to walk away with the most from this? Now, there can be multiple things that people learn along the way, but if it's just going to be 1 thing, like if we had to boil it down to 1 thing, what's it going to be? It's usually going to be a short, catchy statement. Does not have to be difficult. For instance, keep Jesus at the center. Something like that. Really short. I try to limit these like 4 to 6 or 7 words. Even shorter if possible. Just so it'll like stick in people's memories. This is called the bottom line. So what's the bottom line of what I've been talking about in the sermon today? And then it's just a nice, succinct phrase, usually catchy, statement that will stick with people. So those are 3 preaching tips that I have for you. We have the word of the week, the and everybody said point, and the third one, the bottom line. All right. Hope that helps.
Interested in growing your ancient language skills but not sure where to start? GlossaHouse can help. From illustrated readers and short stories to lexicons and grammars, GlossaHouse offers a variety of resources for beginning, intermediate, and experienced ancient language learners. Head to glossahouse.com today. GlossaHouse, language resources for the global community.